When the doctor said, "You're pregnant," I was 14 years old. My mother kicked me out of the house, school expelled me, everyone declared me a lost cause. But they didn't know that the baby in my womb wasn't just a child, but the inspiration for the biggest technological revolution of the future. 12 years later, everyone who abandoned me is begging for jobs at my door. My name is Sarah Martinez, and this is the story of how I changed the world as a 14-year-old mother. That cold December day in 2011 was the darkest moment of my life. In that small clinic in Boston, when the doctor's words, "You're pregnant," echoed in my ears, the world seemed to slip from under my feet. I was 14 years old and wasn't ready for anything. Dr. Williams was an elderly man, looking at me with pity from behind his glasses. "You're very young, Sarah. How will you explain this situation to your family?" "I don't know," I whispered. "You have options, of course. You have time to think." But I already knew. I wanted this baby. I couldn't even explain why. But that little being in my womb felt like part of me. Walking out of the clinic, my feet weren't touching the ground. The cold Boston air was slapping my face. With trembling hands, I pulled out my cell phone and called my mother's number. "Mom, I'm pregnant," my mouth stammered. There was a long silence on the phone. I could hear car sounds, a dog barking in the distance. Then my mother's voice came, ice cold. "Come home immediately. We need to talk." That walk home was the longest 20 minutes of my life. With every step, I thought about how my mother would react. Maybe she'd be understanding, maybe she'd support me. How naive I was. When I got home, I'll never forget the expression on my mother's face. A mixture of anger, disappointment, and shame. She was sitting at the kitchen table, smoking a cigarette. I rarely saw her smoke. This wasn't a good sign. "Sit down," she said in a harsh voice. I sat across from her at the table. I could hear my heartbeat. The old family photo hanging on the wall caught my eye. The last photo before my father left us. A happy, smiling family. Now it was history. "You're 14 years old, Sarah. 14 factorial, you haven't even graduated high school. What work do you know? What money do you have? How will you take care of that child?" "I don't know, Mom, but..." "You don't know? Of course you don't know. Because you didn't think." She slammed her hand on the table so hard that the ashtray jumped. "When I was your age, I dreamed of being a theater actress. Then I met your father, got pregnant. My dreams ended. Now you're making the same mistake." "This isn't a mistake, Mom, isn't it? Look around you, Sarah. This house, this life. Is this what you want? Making ends meet with cleaning jobs, barely being able to pay bills?" My mother stood up with a coldness in her eyes I'd never seen before. "There's no room for a pregnant child in this house, Sarah. Either you get rid of that baby or get out of here." Something inside me shattered. "I can't get rid of it, Mom. This is my child." "Then get out. Live on the streets with that child. Let's see how you'll raise it." "Mom, please. I just want support." "No, Mom. I'm not your mother anymore. You made your choice. Now face the consequences. I already raised one child. I won't raise a second one." The meaning of her words slowly began to sink in. She wasn't just kicking me out. She was completely rejecting me. "Pack your things and leave," she said coldly. "You have until morning." That night, at 14 years old, I became pregnant and homeless. While packing my small sports bag, I looked at the few belongings I had, a few clothes, school books, old photos with my mother. My entire life fit in one bag. I was secretly staying in my friend Jessica's family garage. It was cold, damp, and dark. The only light source was a small flashlight Jessica secretly brought me. Lying on an old mattress on the floor, I talked to my baby. "Hello, little one," I said, touching my belly. "I know this place isn't very nice, but it's temporary. Mommy will find you a better place." Jessica brought food scraps every evening. "If my family finds out about this, they'll kick me out too," she said. "But I can't leave you on the street." "Thank you," I'd say. "I don't know what I'd do without you." But the real hell began when I went to school. The pregnancy news had somehow spread throughout the school. Maybe someone heard the vomiting sounds in the bathroom. Maybe someone saw us talking with Jessica. On the first day, the corridor turned into hell. While walking, they shouted, "Whore, slut, trash" behind me. Male students made disgusting jokes, and female students excluded me too. Look what happened to Sarah. they whispered. She used to be so smart, but now the most hurtful thing was the reaction of my old friends. Emma, who had been our friend since first grade, acted as if she didn't know me when she passed by. "Emma," I called out. She turned but had a cold expression on her face. "Sarah, I can't hang out with you anymore." My family forbade it. "But why?" "I'm still the same Sarah." "No, you're not. You're different now." Teachers looked at me with pitying eyes, saying, "You were a student with potential, Sarah." They spoke in past tense as if I had already died. The most hurtful was the reaction of my favorite teacher, Mrs. Henderson. She was my math teacher and always supported me. She always said, "You have the potential to go to MIT." "Sarah," she said one day after class, "it's not too late to solve this situation. Think about your decision." "Which decision?" I asked, though I already knew. "I'm talking about terminating the pregnancy. You're a very smart girl. Don't ruin your future like this." Those words deeply wounded me, because I respected her. But she thought like the others, too. "This isn't ruining my future. This is my new beginning," I said with determination. "Sarah, be realistic. How will you raise a baby at 14? "I'll learn." Mrs. Henderson shook her head. "You're thinking too romantically. Real life isn't like that." In the 3rd month of my pregnancy, Principal Mr. Williams called me in. He was sitting behind his desk in his large office. He was looking at the file in front of him, not even looking at me. "Sarah Martinez," he said in a cold voice, "your situation is not suitable for our school." "What do you mean, sir?" "We think pregnant students set a bad example for other students. It undermines our moral values." I couldn't believe it, but I'm not violating any rules. My grades are still good. I have no absences. "Sarah, you don't understand. This isn't just an academic issue. This is about our school's image and the message we give to other students." "What message?" "The message that early pregnancy has consequences. Unfortunately, we have to remove you from school. Of course, you can continue your education at another school later." "Will another school accept me?" Mr. Williams shrugged. "That's your problem." And so both my home and my school ended. At 14 years old, I had only my unborn baby and my spinning mind. When Jessica's family learned about the situation, they kicked me out too. "You're a bad influence on our daughter," they said. "You ruined your own life. Don't ruin ours." In those days, I was staying in Boston's cold streets, in night shelters. I'll never forget my first night at the shelter. It was a small place run by the Salvation Army. Elderly women, drug addicts, mentally ill people. They were all lost in their own worlds. And I was alone among them, 14 years old and pregnant. "Is this your first time here, honey?" said an elderly woman sitting next to me. "I'm Margaret. I've been here for 15 years. 15 years? I was shocked. "Yes, honey. Once you fall here, it's very hard to get out. The system keeps you down. You be careful too. You're young and beautiful. They could eat you alive here." I couldn't sleep at all that night. Margaret's words wouldn't leave my mind. Once you fall here, it's very hard to get out. The next morning, I made a promise to myself. I won't stay here for 15 years. This won't be my end. It will be my beginning. Very few places wanted to give a job to a pregnant 14-year-old. I applied to dozens of places, from fast food chains to small shops. "You're too young. There would be insurance problems. We don't have pregnant employees. Customers would be uncomfortable. You need a high school diploma." Finally, I found a chance at McDonald's. The manager, Maria, was a middle-aged Mexican woman. She was clearly a woman who had also gone through hard times. "How old are you?" she asked in my interview. 16, I lied. "ID?" I had researched ways to get a fake ID, but it was too expensive. "I forgot it at home. I'll bring it tomorrow." Maria looked me over. "You're pregnant, aren't you?" I was caught. I hung my head. "Yes." "How many months?" 3.5. "Can you work until you give birth?" "Yes, of course." Maria thought for a long time. "Look, girl, I also got pregnant when I was your age. Nobody gave me a chance. That's why I'll give you one. But don't disappoint me. I won't, I promise. $7.25 per hour, 6 hours a day. I can't give more. It would be against the law. $43.50 per day, about $900 per month. I was going to try to live on this money. On my first day of work, everything was very difficult. My feet were swelling, my back was aching, but I didn't give up. At nights, I sat in the library dreaming about the future. The library had become my refuge. The Boston Public Library was big, warm, and quiet. Nobody judged me. I sat there for hours, researching on computers, reading books. One day, while sitting at a computer in the library, I felt a strong kick in my belly. At that moment, I realized that this baby was talking to me. For the first time, I spoke to it out loud. "Hello, little one," I said, touching my belly. "You know, everyone thinks we're finished, but I promise you, you'll have a mother you can be proud of." At that moment, a news story on the laptop caught my attention. Young entrepreneur Mark Zuckerberg becomes billionaire with Facebook. "Well, look, baby," I said. "He succeeded at 19. I'm starting at 14. I have more time." While reading that news, I saw another one. Number of single mothers at record high. Lack of support is a big problem. Then another. Social media usage increasing, but loneliness is also increasing. At that moment, the wheels in my brain started turning. 3 different news stories, 3 different realities. Great success with technology, difficulties faced by single mothers, the spread of social media. Could I combine these 3? I thought. From that night on, I started researching for hours every night in the library. Technology companies, social media platforms, mobile applications. I studied them all. I read Steve Jobs' life story. Adopted, barely finished high school, but founded Apple. I read Bill Gates' story. Left Harvard, made a risky decision, but created Microsoft. These people did extraordinary things, I thought. I can do it too. Another night, while browsing forum sites for pregnant women, I saw that everyone was experiencing the same problems: loneliness, unemployment, despair, anxiety about baby care. But they didn't know each other. There are thousands of pregnant women in Boston, I thought. They're all experiencing the same problems, but they don't know each other. That's it, I said that night. My first idea was born. Before Diego was born, I started learning programming. I used free videos on YouTube and basic courses from Codecademy. The first night I tried to learn HTML, I didn't understand anything. Test, what does this mean? I asked myself. But I didn't give up. In the last months of my pregnancy, I studied coding for 2 to 3 hours every night. Maria had noticed, "You're always dealing with those coding things. What are you doing?" "I'm making an app, Maria, for mothers." "What kind of app?" "An app that will connect mothers to each other. It will help them find jobs, make friends." Maria laughed. "Crazy idea, but you're a crazy girl anyway." When learning CSS, I spent hours changing colors and fonts. When learning JavaScript, I wrote codes that did simple calculations. "This calculates my age," I said with joy. They were very simple things, but they were big achievements for me. While giving birth in the hospital, the nurses looked at me with pity. "Poor child," they said. "How will she manage at this age?" One nurse was particularly rude. "How will you raise this child? You can't even take care of yourself. Social services will come and take this child." "No one will take him," I said with determination. But when I held my son Diego in my arms, everything changed. Looking at his little face, I felt infinite determination. It was as if I could see my entire future in his eyes. "I promise you, Diego," I whispered, "you will never be poor, because your mother will make you the greatest source of pride." Diego was a very calm baby. He didn't cry much, as if he understood my situation. When we left the hospital, social services put me under surveillance. As a 15-year-old single mother, they constantly came to visit. "You can't raise this child, Sarah," said social service specialist Ms. Parker. "You're too young. You have no money, no proper home. Let's have him adopted. The child will have a better life." "Never," I screamed. "He's my child. I won't give him to anyone." "Think, Sarah. You ruined your own life. Don't ruin his too." I didn't ruin my life. I started a new one. At that time, we were living on $320 in government aid. Together with the money I earned from McDonald's, we had about $1,200 per month. With this money, I rented a small studio apartment. Monthly rent was $800. With the remaining $400, we bought food, baby formula, and diapers. The furniture consisted of a bed, a chair, a small table, an old television. But it was our home. When Diego was 6 months old, I seriously started learning coding at midnight. I read programming books borrowed from the library. I worked on an old laptop I bought for $200. MomConnect's purpose was clearly formed in my mind. Connecting young mothers to each other, matching job seekers with employers, those looking for babysitters with trustworthy people, those seeking advice with experienced mothers. First, I made a simple website, basic design with HTML and CSS. Then I added simple functions with JavaScript, user registration system, messaging feature, profile pages. It took me 8 months to make the first prototype. At nights next to Diego, I wrote code. I made 50 mistakes a day and fixed 50 of them. Sometimes I was so tired that I fell asleep on the keyboard. When Diego cried, I would wake up, calm him down, and return to coding. "Why are you always on the computer, Mama?" Diego asked when he started talking. "I'm working for you, baby," I'd say. "You'll understand when you grow up." When I finished the first version, I tested it with a local mothers group. There was a group of 12 people, including Maria, whom I knew from McDonald's. I had created a Facebook group called Boston Young Mothers. "Sarah, what is this?" Maria had asked. "An app for mothers to help each other. How does it work? For example, you're looking for a job. You write it in the app. Another mother knows an employer. It connects you with each other. The results in the first week were incredible. 3 mothers found jobs, 5 found reliable babysitters, and all made friends who would support each other." "This is big, Sarah," Maria said. "You've really done something special." "This is just the beginning," I said. "I'm dreaming bigger." "How big?" "Nationwide big. When Diego turned 1, MomConnect had 500 users, all from around Boston. It was spreading word of mouth. One mother told another mother, and she told someone else. At that time, I was still working at McDonald's. My manager, Maria, knew my situation and gave me flexibility. "You're different, Sarah," she'd say. "It's obvious you can't stay in this job. You'll do big things." One day, MIT announced an entrepreneurship competition, Next Gen Entrepreneurs Competition, for entrepreneurs under 25. The prize was $50,000 and a 3-month mentorship program at MIT. "You should apply," Maria said. "Your app would win." "But I'm not even a high school graduate," I said. "It doesn't matter. You're the person who created that app. That's more valuable than a diploma." My application process was very difficult. When writing my resume, I felt very inadequate. Education section, high school dropout due to pregnancy. Work experience, McDonald's employee. But what I wrote in the project section was very powerful. MomConnect, social platform empowering mothers, 500 active users, 60% job finding success rate, 90% user satisfaction. I passed the first elimination. Then there was a video interview. I connected from home with my laptop. Diego was playing in the background. "Sarah, tell us about yourself." "I'm 16 years old, a single mother, and I've created a technology platform that changes mothers' lives." "You're very young. How did you accomplish this project?" "Because I'm both the developer and the user. I made it for my own need. Then I saw others had the same need. I made it to the final presentation. I had to go to MIT campus. I had to bring Diego with me too." There were 5 professors on the committee. They were all middle-aged, in suits, probably had never encountered a single mother. They listened to my project dismissively until I showed the user data. "Did a 16-year-old create these numbers?" They were surprised. "Yes," I said proudly, "and this is just the beginning. I've barely started showing MomConnect's potential. Questions started pouring in. Technical details, marketing strategy, revenue model, scalability. What's your technical infrastructure? Currently a simple web application, but I have plans to transition to mobile app. Your revenue model? Currently free, but I'm thinking about small fees for premium features and job postings in the future. Did you do competitive analysis? There's LinkedIn, but for professionals. There's Facebook, but it's a general social network. There's no special platform for mothers, especially nothing for young, disadvantaged mothers. So, Sarah, said the lead professor, how did you gain so much experience at this age? Because I'm not just a student, I said. I'm also a customer. I was the first person to use this app. I made it for my own need. What sets you apart from other entrepreneurs? I'm living this problem. Every night when Diego sleeps and I write code, I know what mothers go through. The loneliness, despair, fear mixed with hope. This isn't just business. This is my life. Another professor asked, what will you do if you fail? I don't have the luxury of failing, I said with determination. I'm taking care of Diego and obligated to give him a good future. This has to succeed. I won the competition. $50,000 was my first big capital. With that money, I completely renewed MomConnect. I worked with a professional designer, hired a UI/UX expert, strengthened the servers. Most importantly, I converted it to a mobile app. I followed a mobile-first strategy. Because most mothers didn't own computers, but they had phones. I released iOS and Android versions simultaneously. Even uploading to App Store and Google Play was a separate adventure. Dozens of forms, review process, advertising policies. In the first month, 10,000 downloads came. In the second month, 25,000. In the third month, 50,000. User feedback was incredible. Sarah, thanks to your app, I found my dream job, remote graphic design work. Thank you. Jessica, 19, Seattle. I found a reliable babysitter for my baby. Now I can work part-time. Life changed. Maria, 22, Chicago. I met mothers in the same situation. I'm not alone anymore. We support each other so much. Amanda, 18, New York. I met a marriage therapist on your app. Our marriage was saved. Rebecca, 25, Boston. Every feedback filled my heart. This wasn't just an app, it was a life-changing tool. As the number of users increased, expenses also increased. Server costs, developer fees, marketing expenses. The $50,000 was quickly melting away. And that's when the first call from Silicon Valley came. Edie. Hello, Sarah. I'm David Chen from Tech Ventures. We've seen your app and want to talk. When I received this call, Diego was 18 months old. I was 17 years old, still living in that small apartment in Boston. Can you come to San Francisco? He asked. With a baby? I said in surprise. Of course. You're a very special entrepreneur, Sarah. We'll cover all expenses. Business class flight, 5-star hotel. I was flying for the first time. With Diego in my lap, we were going to Silicon Valley. The businessman sitting next to us on the plane frowned when he saw Diego. There shouldn't be children on planes, he grumbled. I'm sorry, I said in a low voice, but Diego behaved very well, never cried, as if he understood the importance of this journey. When we landed at San Francisco Airport, a driver met us. Black Mercedes, leather seats, cold water bottles. It was another world. When I entered the Tech Ventures office, the shock I experienced was indescribable. In the 30-story building, the top 3 floors were theirs. Huge screens, hundreds of employees, people talking about startups, free food services, game rooms, massage salon. Is this place real? I thought. David Chen met us, a man in his 40s, of Asian origin, in an expensive suit but friendly. Sarah, you're so young, he said when he first saw me. Yes, I'm 17 years old, I said. Incredible. When I was your age, I was still collecting Pokemon cards. Your app has incredible potential. The young mothers market is a $50 billion market and you acted very early here. I just wanted to help, I said. And you are helping. But you can reach millions of mothers. You can expand to Europe and Asia through our network. We entered the meeting room. Glass walls, designer furniture, city view. While Diego played with toys, I was talking business. We're ready to invest $2 million in exchange for 20% equity. My head spun. $2 million. I was only 17 years old. You're telling me you see the company's value as $10 million, I said. Is that correct? David smiled. You learn very fast. Yes, that's correct. What do you suggest I do with this money? Grow the team, do marketing, develop the mobile app, add artificial intelligence, open to international markets. That night in the hotel, after putting Diego to sleep, I thought for hours. What could I do with this money? A good life for Diego, a good education for myself, a bigger team. But something was bothering me. Will I lose control of the company? The next day, I expressed this concern to David. Sarah, you'll have 80% equity. Control will remain with you. We'll just be mentors. But MomConnect's mission won't change, right? This is being done for mothers, not for money. Of course, social impact is important to us too. Yes, I said finally, but I have one condition. MomConnect's mission will never change. This won't be done for money. It will be done for mothers. Deal, David said. And so at 17 years old, I received my first big investment. In 2016, when I turned 18, MomConnect had 2 million users. I'd already moved from Boston. We had a small office in San Francisco. I had a team of 12 people. Diego was now 3 years old and called me CEO Mom. When he came to the office, employees welcomed him like a mascot. He took chocolate from everyone's desk. Mom, he said one day, why are you different from other mothers? I'm not different, baby, I said. I just want other mothers to have happy children like you. As the company grew, it also started attracting media attention. We first appeared in TechCrunch with the headline, 17-year-old CEO creates Facebook for mothers. Then we made the cover of Forbes. They introduced me as Gen Z's youngest entrepreneur. But the real big moment happened when I appeared on Oprah Winfrey's show. Oprah's team had found me, and after hearing my story, they invited me to the show. This young mother is changing the lives of millions of mothers with the project she started for her own child, Oprah said on live broadcast. After that show aired, 500,000 new member registrations came in one day. Our servers crashed. The phone kept ringing. Media requests started pouring in. CNN, BBC, NBC. Everyone wanted interviews. Sarah, are you ready? David said, because now the real work begins. That year, MomConnect received a second investment round, this time $15 million. The company's value rose to $100 million. I was now 19 years old and technically a millionaire. In 2020, when I was already 22 years old, I made a decision. I would return to Boston, I would leave the company headquarters in San Francisco, but I would return to where my roots were. The company's value had reached $1 billion. I was also a billionaire on paper, but the place I really wanted to return to was where everything began. First, I visited my old high school. While passing by my old high school, Principal Mr. Williams noticed me. The same principal who expelled me 9 years ago for being a bad example. Sarah Martinez, he shouted, running. What an honor to see you. You've become our pride. Hello, Mr. Williams, I said coldly. I'm surprised you remember me. Of course I remember. You were our most successful student. We always supported you. Actually, I wasn't your student, I said calmly. Don't you remember expelling me from school for being a bad example? His face turned red. Sweat drops appeared on his forehead. Ah, yes. Those times. We had different policies. But now we're so proud of you. Your achievements. Do you have new policies now? I asked. Because I want to establish a scholarship program for young mothers at this school. This would be great, Sarah. What do you need to do? Miss Martinez, I said sternly. And yes, I'll establish it. But the person who will manage this program won't be me. It will be Diego. When he turns 18, children need to learn how young mothers should be treated. Then I went to my old neighborhood. That small studio apartment was still standing. The new residents were a young couple. I told them my story and said I wanted to buy that apartment. Why? They asked curiously. Because that apartment was my turning point. There, I learned that there's no such thing as impossible. There, I wrote my first codes, planned the future with Diego. I turned that apartment into a museum. I named it MomConnect House. It became a place where young mothers could stay for free, look for jobs, get education, and network. On opening day, hundreds of mothers came. Among them were former customers who knew me. "Sarah, you really did it," said Maria, my former McDonald's manager. "Do you remember those days? You were learning coding every night." Of course I remember, Maria. None of this would have been possible without you. The hardest part came. Calling my mother. My mother had called me after seeing me on television for the first time in 9 years. "Sarah," she said, crying, "I saw you on television. I'm so proud. Forgive me." "Where were you 9 years ago?" I asked. I was wrong. I was scared. I was also very young when I became a mother. I didn't know how to manage. My own mother didn't support me either. I continued this cycle. "Why are you calling now?" "Because I understood my mistakes. You didn't shame me. I shamed myself. I want to meet Diego." There was a long silence. Then I spoke. "Mom, I've already forgiven you. Because if you hadn't kicked me out of the house, I might never have become so strong. You actually set me free. But I treated you so badly. A mother shouldn't behave like that. Yes, you did. But this made me stronger. Do you want to meet Diego?" A week after that phone conversation, my mother and Diego met for the first time. Diego called her Grandma, and my mother burst into tears. "He's a very smart child," she said. "He looks a lot like you. He seems very determined." "I hope so," I said, "but I hope he'll be luckier than me." I'll never tell him impossible. In 2023, Google announced it wanted to buy MomConnect. The offer was $5 billion. "This is a crazy amount," David said. "You should accept, Sarah. $5 billion at 25 years old." "But MomConnect is my baby," I said. "If I sell it, I'll lose control." What if they change its mission? "Sarah, you're 25 years old. Think about what you can do with $5 billion. New projects, founding a foundation, creating bigger impact." I thought for a long time. Then I talked to Google. "You can buy MomConnect," I said, "but I have 3 conditions. First, the app will always remain free. Second, ads will never be mixed with motherhood advice. Third, I'll remain as CEO for 5 more years and the mission won't change." "Accepted," the Google executive said. When the deal was signed, my hands were shaking. While signing the contract, I thought of that 14-year-old pregnant girl. Could she have ever imagined this moment? And so at 25 years old, I had a net worth of $3 billion on paper. But my real wealth was Diego. He was now 10 years old, intelligent, kind, and determined. "Mom," Diego said one day, "do you ever regret me? For ruining your dreams?" When I heard that question, my heart ached. I hugged him. "Diego, you didn't ruin my dreams. You were my dreams. When I was pregnant at 14, my biggest fear was being a bad mother. Now I see that thanks to you, I found the best version of myself in the world. But you became a mother at such a young age. You lost your freedom." "No, baby. I gained my freedom. Because you gave me a purpose. Without you, I might have been an ordinary high school student. But with you, I became someone who changed the lives of millions of mothers." Today, I'm 26 years old. MomConnect serves 100 million mothers in 85 countries. Even after being acquired by Google, it maintains its original mission. Now, I have new projects. With my foundation called Rise Foundation, I run mentorship programs for young entrepreneurs, educational scholarships for young mothers, and coding schools for children without access to technology. Diego is now 10 years old and already learning to code. "Mom," he says, "I'll change the world like you." "I know, baby, but you'll do bigger things than me, because you've been supported from the beginning. You never heard the word impossible." Last week, I gave a speech at Harvard. In the 2,000-person auditorium, there were students, professors, entrepreneurs. I saw a pregnant young girl in the audience. She came to me after my speech. "I'm also 16 years old and pregnant," she said, crying. "Everyone says I'm finished. My school expelled me. My family rejected me." "Nothing is finished," I said, holding her hand. "On the contrary, your most beautiful adventure is just beginning. Because that baby will make you a woman you never imagined." "But it's so hard," she said. "Yes, it's very hard. I struggled a lot too. But every difficulty makes you stronger. Don't just try to survive, try to grow." I gave her my card. "Call me." There are thousands of mothers on MomConnect who will help you. And now I'm starting a new program, Teen Mom Scholarship Program. It will enable young mothers like you to both take care of children and get education. "Really?" she said, her eyes lighting up. "Really?" Because I was standing in the same place at 14, and look where I came. When I got pregnant at 14, everyone thought I was finished. My mother kicked me out, school expelled me, society excluded me, but they didn't know that I was actually being reborn that day. Because sometimes life's biggest costs bring the biggest rewards. Diego wasn't my biggest cost. He was my biggest reward. He didn't just make me a mother. He gave me the power to change the world. Today, millions of mothers connect to each other thanks to MomConnect. Hundreds of thousands of young mothers start their own businesses. Millions of children grow up proud of their mothers, and me. I'm no longer just Sarah who became a mother at 14. I'm Sarah who changed the world. The other day, Diego said to me, "Mom, you're really a superhero." "No, baby," I said. "We are superheroes. You made me strong, and I made the world a better place for you. Because that's how it is. It's never too late. It's never too young. And it's never, ever impossible." Every night when I put Diego to bed, I tell him the same thing. "You're not my miracle, baby. You're my strength." And he looks at me and smiles. "You're my superhero mom, too." This is my story. From a finished girl at 14 to a woman who changed the world at 26. At that moment when everyone said it was impossible, everything was actually just beginning. If this story inspired you, like the video, subscribe, and write in the comments which impossible dream do you want to achieve. Thank you for the watching.